Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me again on this tour of my home, my little home. On the last video, we looked at the main level. This video, we'll look at the basement. If you didn't see the last video, go check it out. Otherwise, if this is your first time, my home is a one-story Rambler. There's a main level and a basement. It's very likely that the home before it was put on this foundation was actually barracks from World War II. You'll be able to see some of the bones down here in the basement. And it's kind of fun to see how things are constructed in different eras. So we'll get into some of the problems I had that I had to fix, and then some of the design ideas that I had, and you'll be able to see how it all ties together. I think when it comes to design and laying out a space, a lot of it is very subjective as far as your aesthetic, the color scheme, the texture that you like or not. I'll give you some of the reasons behind why I chose the materials and the look that I chose, but at the end of the day, it's kind of just preference. So it's not for everybody, but I've made it kind of how I want it now after almost 4 years of straight renovation projects. So let's get into it. Okay, so this should be a familiar scene if you saw the first video where I explored the main level. That's the front entrance with the foyer that I constructed as a pergola. And the front door there is just this far away from the back door, so you can see that the depth of the house is pretty shallow. But we're here at the top of the stairs, and what we have is tile that ties into all the other tile in the house here on the landing, and then the stairs themselves, which you can see lead to the basement. So the stairs, they're fairly steep, and they're actually not quite to code. However, it's the best I could do given the original stairs, because the originals had one extra stair that made the treads even shorter. So when that was the case, I basically had to go down sideways. I took a tread out, completely redid the stringers, the risers, the treads, and this is the result. I decided to do a runner instead of keeping them bare or doing some other carpet. So we'll work our way down here, and you'll be able to see some of the features that we noted in the last video. Here again, I have some of the accent color matching the doors upstairs. And then this is the cutout that I had to do to give myself a little more headroom. Where the shim trim is, that's where the old wall was. So you can see by taking that out, there's much more room to move around coming down the stairs. So coming down, I'll give you a brief pano, and then we'll kind of pick it apart and look at the details. So everything you see is done, renovated, and not original, except for obviously things like the windows. And then here is a panel door or shoji door screen. And just a note on this, I'll open it up so you can see the sleeping area. I like the rustic wood look. I like the screw heads. It's a little bit industrial. I did not actually finish these doors as far as putting a sealer or a varnish on them. So it's just raw wood, and that actually gives a nice scent. But you'll see what it's like when I open it up and see if it's to your preference or if you would do something different. So here's a view of the shoji doors opened into the sleeping area. Typically I keep these open and everything kind of flows together, but we'll take a step back here, and what I want to do is start from the ceiling and then work our way to the floor to give you an idea of all the things that were done. So originally when I bought the place, there was drop-down ceiling with those ceiling tiles that you often see in commercial spaces. I took all those out, which basically raised the ceiling another 5 or 6 inches to the current state. And then I painted it all black, and you can kind of get a sense of what a black painted ceiling looks like with all the exposed floor joists from the level above. If we come in here to the laundry area, you can see the old ceiling was painted red, and some of it was even completely unpainted and has remained so since its construction in 1948. So the can lights here, I decided not to conceal them because obviously everything is open anyway. So to make them look a little more pleasant, I painted them the same accent color, that blue kind of teal color. And I think it kind of did a nice little touch up for that rough looking ceiling. In my opinion, the rougher looking ceiling, I don't mind it. I actually like the fact that you kind of get into those cavities and it gives you a little more height. But also if repairs need to be done, it's very easy to access. So there's a smoke alarm, you can see the wires up there. But typically you're not really paying attention to what's above you. You're more focused on the horizontal. So I'll talk about some of the wall things here in a second. So as far as wall framing goes, all of the wall framing is new. I'm going to peek at the floor here just to show you that right in this area was a closet that I had taken out. And this paneling, this accent wall here, was originally on part of the exterior of that closet wall. And I had actually done that as an accent on it because most of it was unfinished anyway. But then I saved the boards, just kind of shiplap MDF material, and decided to keep the theme of the accent. And then all these exterior walls against the block foundation are new 2x4 construction, but to save space, I laid the 2x4s flat. I did put some insulation behind them, 1-inch foam board, but that's the maximum amount of space I could get with putting in the new framed wall. So the wall art, as you can see, is kind of a fun way to work with the empty space. You know, you can post pictures up, you can hang things. In fact, I got just a random rope hanging there as part of a little decoration. But I like to experiment with wall art and using my creativity a little bit. Here's some Chinese on this one. For any of you Chinese speakers, obviously you'd probably be able to read that. I did live in China for 5 years, so I've got some Chinese under my belt. And then over here, we have another tree. The first tree I did was upstairs where you briefly saw in the closet. And then I decided to do another one down here, which I think really adds a nice touch to this big wall. The windows here are original, but I did decide to paint them an accent yellow. Kind of draws your eye to them, but it provides a nice little contrast. At the same time, it ties both ends of the house together. And then this larger window is the egress window that is necessary for bedroom spaces. So technically, you can have a bedroom down here. And this is the third bedroom that the house was sold as. Originally, there was a wall here, basically a hallway on both sides, and there was a door here. Took down that door, tore up all the carpet, redid everything, and now it's basically one continuous space that all flows together. So basically the best you could do with the space down here. There's not much else I could do to open it up. The furnace is behind that wall and the utilities, so you kind of have to keep those separate as well. So we'll look at the floor here. The original flooring was carpet, and I tore it all up. Where there wasn't carpet, there was just concrete. So I chose tile, a fairly neutral gray. It's, in my opinion, the easiest to clean up and the lowest maintenance. You could say it's probably the hardest to install, but once it's installed, it's pretty permanent. So you can always, retile or tile over and things like that. But the accent here is where the old closet was. So instead of looking for a match to the other gray tile, because if I didn't mention it, I put the tile in before I took this closet out. And then when I went to find tile, they didn't have the tile that I'd put down anymore. So I had to find some kind of accent or match, and there were no matches. So went with the fun accent tile in here, and that just shows you how big the original closet space was. Not much else to say about the flooring. I obviously like throw rugs, and there's a fairly busy pattern scheme that suits my tastes. You might have a different taste or a different sense of aesthetic that ties these things together. But one thing you have to consider is, how does all this tie in with the furniture you have or the furniture you want to buy? I think this all ties in pretty well. It's not too eclectic, it's not too busy. It is important in some places to have blank wall, at least in my opinion, because otherwise it really does get busy, and then it feels almost anxious and hectic. So it doesn't hurt to have a blank space here and there. One last note on the walls. The foundation is a block foundation, and I actually had leaks that I didn't know about when I bought the place because I bought it in winter. So one thing to note as a homeowner or prospective homeowner, just because your house is on the market and it passes inspection doesn't mean there aren't problems that you should look into. So I was going to take down the walls anyway, the old ones, and that's the only way that I found that there was a water moisture issue. But it was fortunate that I did. So the solution to that was I just regraded around the house. I piled up dirt, made sure there was a good slope, and then covered that in plastic and then landscape rock. So now all the rainwater, all the snow melt moves away from the house, and ever since I did that, it has been dry as a bone down here. So something to keep in mind. But that is basically the extent of the renovations I did in the basement, and I really can't figure out anything else to do down here besides call it finished and just enjoy it for what it is. So thanks for joining me. I will post some before pictures so you have a sense of contrast with the original, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, and hope you have a good day.